So I'm going to talk about our 3 objectives tonight. So these are the 3 things we're going to try to accomplish while we're here together over the next hour. Number 1 is I want to get you guys excited about learning how to sell. Like I want to talk about the why and why I think it's really important to learn how to sell when you're young. So I'm going to sell you on that. Like the first group that needs to be sold is you guys on this opportunity, right? So that's my first goal tonight, is to get you to get excited about plugging in, coming to these trainings, and taking this seriously. Number 2 is we're going to talk about communication filters. So when we communicate as humans, there's actually more that goes on than just words, right? Words is part of that, but our body language and our eye contact and how we speak, there's so many different things that have to do with communication. And so I'm going to talk about that and intro a bunch of things tonight that you've probably heard of, but we're going to do a deeper dive and just become students of communication and how to become really good communicators. So that's number 2. Number 3 is you're all here because you want to learn how to sell pest control and make a bunch of money this summer, or you're open to learning about that, right? And so I want to walk you through the steps of a pest control sale. Today's going to be a very high level walkthrough of the whole process. So we're not going to do a deep dive into the pitch and exactly what to say, but I want you to see like start to finish how the thing looks. And so that's the goal as far as the process. And we call the whole process from start to finish the sales cycle, right? You've maybe heard that phrase. A pest control sales cycle is actually pretty short and simple, and that's why I love selling pest control and teaching it. But anyway, that's what we're going to cover tonight. Also, I just wanted to say, like, as you have questions tonight, even on Zoom, I'll have Darren kind of close to the computer, and if you have questions on Zoom, we have a lot of people Zooming in tonight, so you're welcome to ask questions on Zoom. If you're here and you have questions and you want to stop me, I want this to feel somewhat interactive, so you're welcome to ask questions. But this quote I really love. I came across it recently, and the quote is, "Amateurs love the profits, but they don't love the process, or they hate the process." And I want to share a story real quick that I actually heard this week that's really cool, and it kind of reminds me of this quote. So I was listening to a podcast, and the guy that was being interviewed is someone that I actually know, super successful guy, really amazing business person, but along the way he had this like side hobby that became like a kind of and he was a referee, and he was like doing it for fun while being a business person. Then he became a really good referee, and he actually got recruited to become a college ref and then an NFL ref. So he was like a really successful business guy, and then he ended up becoming an NFL referee for like 5-6 years. And so the guy that was running this podcast was asking him questions about that experience. It was his very first game ever as an NFL referee, and he was in Denver, and the Broncos were playing the Patriots, and this is when Tom Brady was still playing. And Tom Brady was warming up on the field, and he was throwing passes with his wide receiver. And Bart is the name of this referee, this guy that's being interviewed. He was sitting on the sidelines, and he was just waiting for the game to start, and he was standing like 5 feet away from Tom Brady. And Tom Brady said, he looked over at Bart, and Bart had never met Tom Brady. And Tom Brady said, "Bart Longston, good to meet you. Welcome to the NFL." And Bart was like, "Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks, Tom Brady. Like, good to meet you too. Decided to ref, first time ever. Like, we'll see what happens tonight." And then Tom Brady proceeds to ask how his family is, how his kids are, and he knew like 2 or 3 like things about Bart. Like, he did his homework about Bart. And Bart in this interview, in this podcast, was like, "Dude, it's impossible not to like the guy when you've never met him before, and he like looks you up and finds out about you and asks about you, right?" And he's like, "I'd be lying if I said like that wasn't on my mind as the game was going on. Like, it gave Tom Brady an edge, you know?" And it made me think about this quote. It made me think about like when our reps are preparing for summer, and all the summers that I did, like, what were the things that I was doing to get a leg up? Where were the inches at that I could go get? And when I was really doing well at this job and making really good money young, it was because I was in the off season, like fighting to get the extra inches and figure out how to develop myself to become a killer, like to become an amazing salesperson in the summertime. And so these trainings are going to be very helpful for you. But my big invitation is come to these, take notes, but also like become a student of sales and spend time with whoever your leaders are here and myself, and fall in love with the process, because money follows value. And if you become really good at the process, then the profits will come. So I wanted to share that. Here is the process. So this is how you're going to learn how to become a really good salesperson. This is our model. So we call it the learning model. Step 1 is learn principles. So you're going to learn those at these trainings. Step 2 is you're going to see examples. So you're going to see myself, and I'm actually going to have probably 4 or 5 other people play a role in these trainings that have done really well. In summers, they're going to teach and show as well. So you're going to see it done, and then the best way to learn is by doing, right? And so you're gonna do it with support, meaning you're gonna do role plays, and you're gonna get up and make a fool out of yourself and look dumb or whatever. But that's the best way you're gonna learn, is by doing. And we're gonna coach you up and teach you how to become a really good salesperson. So it happens in this order, and you're gonna just learn a principle, see how it's done by someone that can do this at a high level, and then you're gonna try it yourself. And that might be here in front of the group. It might be doing one-on-ones with your leaders. And so yeah, any questions on this process? Okay. And for my leaders, just an example, a reminder that your role in this is to teach principles, show an example, and then give support, right? Okay. Last thing on that first objective is I want to get you stoked on why you should learn how to sell. Okay. So number 1 is it is extremely powerful to learn how to hunt. And when I say that, I mean the peace and the confidence that comes in your life, or that will come in your life, if you get to a place where you can learn this skill, you'll feel like even if anything or everything gets taken from me, like my house burns down, I lose all my money, there's a lot of confidence that comes with knowing that you can go and recreate it. And that's what selling is it's a skill that if you need to, you for the rest of your lives will be able to go and put food on the table for your families or for yourself to be able to provide. And that's a super powerful thing. I'm a believer, and I wasn't around, a couple hundred years ago when hunters, like literally it was like, people would go out and hunt food and bring it back to the village or whatever. But I would imagine that those were like some of the most valuable people in a community, right? And it's still that way today, because salespeople and the hunters, if you look it up, statistics say they are the highest paid people in most organizations, and that's why, is because they're very valuable and they're hard to replace. Next thought. Who has heard the phrase that sales is risky, or that commission jobs are risky? Why do you guys think that that's the case? Like, why is there that narrative that sales or commission jobs are risky? Maybe just a thought or two. I'd be curious to hear an opinion on this. Yeah, Kyle.
You're betting on yourself.
Okay. So, yeah, it's on you, right? You have no one else to rely on. Why else? What other thoughts, Cooper?
There's just no guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know. There's a guaranteed paycheck at the end of the week.
Right.
Up to you.
Yeah. So the amount of times I've heard that, recruiting for this job is thousands and thousands of times. There's been this thing that's been ingrained in our minds that a guarantee, regardless, even if it's a sucky guarantee, it's safe and it's something that we should cling on to. Does that make sense? And the thing I want to challenge this group and everyone on Zoom to rethink is it's risky not to do things like this. Does that make sense? Making $6,000 to $8,000 in the summer and trying to survive off of that in a summer is in my eyes, that's the risky route. And so I want to flip that on its head, and I just want you guys to think about that a little bit differently. Things are really expensive right now. It's really it's hard to survive and not be someone that can go and create some income. And so anyway, for me, this is a less risky path, and and I want, it's just a thought I wanted to share. Last thought is job security. Like I really do believe that if you have sales skills, regardless of what the economy is doing, you'll always be able to go and find a job for a company, or work for yourself or bet on yourself, like Kyle said. So this is a really cool video, and this just kind of drives home the thought that I wanted to share. Can I just click on to the next one? Okay.
How could it be possible that talking makes you more money than carrying nails? Carrying bricks. Carrying bricks is way harder. Carrying nails is way harder. How is it possible that somebody who talks makes exponentially more money than somebody who drives a truck across the country? Driving a truck across the country is way harder because you don't get paid based on the level of difficulty of the work you do. You get paid based on the level of value of the work you're delivering on. And see, when you can communicate, you create messages to the masses. You have conversations that create cash flow. Guess what's interesting about language? Holy Spirit.
Okay. Any thoughts on that video? Any just takeaways that jump out at you? So if you didn't hear that on Zoom, what this guy, and I know there were words too, and you could read that, but the main message here is there are jobs that are actually harder jobs than like what we do, than communicating with people and trying to convince them with our mouths to sign up for something, right? The reason why there is so much money in sales and in this opportunity is you are literally creating value. You're driving revenue and creating revenue, and that's super valuable to us, and we want that. Therefore, we will pay you for every dollar you'll sell. We'll pay you something for that, right? So it's extremely valuable, and it's a beautiful thing. So anyway, you guys feeling excited to learn how to sell hopefully after my soapbox on that? Okay, so number 2 objective is communication filters. I want to dive into this. So this is, we cover this before we cover like the pitch and you know, a lot of the other trainings in the coming weeks are going to be more focused on like what to say at this step and at that step, right? In the pest control sale. This to me is like one of the awesome things that we'll cover early, but it's something that we're going to continue to bring up over and over again as we go into those other modules, because as you're learning what to say throughout the whole sale, again, it matters how you say it. It matters how you look saying it. It matters, your eye contact matters. All those things matter, and they'll matter the whole entire interaction. So that's why we cover this thing very first. Okay, so this is just an overview. Has anyone seen a chart like this or like learned something like this before? So the thing that's really crazy or surprising is a lot of times when we hear about communication, we think about the words that we say. The words that we say are actually a tiny portion of communication, like a tiny portion. So the question is, what makes up the rest of our communication? So you have nonverbal communication. What's another word for nonverbal communication?
Body language.
Yep. Body language. Metaverbal communication. What does metaverbal communication mean?
How you say it.
Yep. And then verbal is obviously the actual words that we say. Okay. What's the negative vibe that you think of when you think of a salesperson? Like what are some words that come to mind when you think of a salesperson that you've had a really bad interaction with? Pushy, Adam? Greedy. Yeah, like I gotta get mine. This guy's trying to get his, or this girl's trying to get hers, and like it's like win-lose, right? Win-lose in a transaction. What else? What else comes to mind? You got greedy, pushy.
Manipulate.
Okay. Yeah, they manipulate, like they're not telling the truth. Maybe they're bending truth or exaggerating. What else?
Fake.
Yeah. They don't feel authentic or themselves. Like they're like talking weird, like in some like weird tone. It's like totally not them, right? What else? This is good. It's healthy to like
Slangy.
yeah. They're like they lie, they, you know. So this is from Matilda. I don't know, this is like 20-year-old maybe, but
I didn't know where that was from.
You did?
I didn't know where that was from.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen it like 5 times.
Yeah. It's a classic. You gotta watch it.
Learn something every time.
Okay, Foot Locker. I'm gonna tell this like just to sum up or drive this whole piece home. Like when you walk into a Foot Locker and you're going to get a pair of shoes, and you know in your head like that you want a certain pair of shoes even sometimes, and the sales rep comes up to you when you walk in and says, "Hey, can I help you with something?" What is like 99% of the time? What's the words that come out of your mouth? I'm good. Like we have this like, dude, don't talk to me. Like I want to be sold. You know, we have a resistance to being sold. Like as humans, we are very uncomfortable with the idea of being sold, but we love buying things. So our role as salespeople, and this is what we're going to try to help you guys get really good at, is to not feel like this guy, to feel authentic, to feel honest, to not feel like you're manipulative, to not feel pushy. Like we want to feel different, and you don't need to be those words to win here. In fact, you will probably suck as a rep if you are those things. And so that's our goal, is that we want to help you not feel that way, because we believe you'll make more sales not being that way. Okay, so I'm going to keep moving. So we're going to dive into these 3 filters real quick. So nonverbal communication. If someone wants to just read, Trayson, you want to read just kind of the non-bolded part there?
All 3.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Nonverbal communication expresses movement, the speed thereof, and the position of the body. Received mostly below the level of awareness. Although the receiver may not be aware, the person communicating can learn to be aware of the power of body language.
Perfect. So a lot of times, like our body language and what we're doing is not noticed until it is. Like if someone's doing something really weird, then it's brought to our awareness and it will like give off red flags, right? So there's a lot that goes into body language actually. And so I want to share some examples of that, okay? And I think that's it. Yep. Okay. So principles of body language: dressing the part. With us, you work for us in the summer, no extreme haircuts. Like we want you to look professional, okay? And we want you to be you. We want you all to be your cute selves, but we don't want you don't want anything that will tell a customer like, I'm not serious, I'm not professional. You can't trust me, right? And so if you have purple hair or something crazy, like you might hear your manager say, you know, dude or girl, I think you should maybe rethink that. Like dressing the part, looking professional, tucking in your shirt, like those are way important things. And you're a young person going up to a professional, like a middle-aged person's house, and you're trying to ask them for their hard-earned money, right? So you need to look professional. Next thought is space zones. So this is simply like how far away you're standing from someone, okay? And I'll show an example of this in a second. Head movement. So head nodding can be a really powerful thing in sales. When you are trying to get someone to say yes, nodding your head at the right time can be super powerful, and subliminally it'll like give you a better chance of them saying yes. Positioning. So this is good. What's positioning? Maybe a veteran seller that knows what this is.
The way you stand.
Okay.
How you're facing the customer.
Yeah. So what's a bad practice with positioning?
Straight on.
Yeah. So like, I'll share an example of this in a second. It's kind of fun, but like if Darren's right here and I'm just like at his door and I'm squaring him up, like it's very weird, right? You don't want that. Usually I do that every year. I have two people come up and like they don't know each other and like have them stand very awkwardly close. So the space zone is off, and then also the positioning is off, right? I'll be nice this year and not do that, but when that happens, when two people are like nose to nose that don't know each other or whatever, like what are the vibes? What's the feeling in that environment? Very awkward and confrontational and feels like an MMA fight, right? So you don't want that. So I'm going to teach in a little while what we want to do with our distance away from someone at the door and how we position our body and throughout the whole interaction. And these are things, all these things are things that will cross over in your everyday lives. Like you will be cognizant of these things in everything that you do. Like I'm going to ruin you guys with your communication now because you will think about these things often, which will be good for you. Eye contact. What's important with eye contact? Like, yeah, what do we want to do with our eye contact? We want to have eye contact, right? But not for too long.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, it's not a trick question. But you can do it for too long, right? So eye contact for too long, we've all met someone or like interacted with someone where it's like, dude, they are like staring into my soul, right? And so you want some balance there, a couple seconds. I would say though, like err on the side of eye contact. Yeah, like if you're too far one way, I would rather you be looking in someone's eyes too much than the other, because if you're shifty and you're not looking in people's eyes, again, like it's hard to obtain trust if that's what you're doing. Sorry. Illustrators, which is going to be things that you can use with your that you can show them. Your hand motions can be really valuable. So there will be some things that will help you with here. There's a point in the sale where you're trying to get them comfortable with the idea of you going around their house real quick and checking out the perimeter of their home, and you're going to use like a motion like this. So their hand motions can be really powerful. And then mirroring. I'm gonna share a couple examples of this. So space zones. Big thing here is there's 4 like zones, and the closer you are is the intimate zone. So that's where you're like right next to someone or right in front of them, right? There actually are times in the sale where you're going to show them the price or show them like certain bugs, and you're going to want to get up right next to them. So let's say someone's right here. Like I want to be here and showing them things, but it's super weird if I spend the entire sale right here next to them, right? Like I'm going to creep them out, and that's not going to go well. So there are times you're going to kind of ebb and flow and like go closer to them, show them things, and you're going to use your space zone with them strategically. But then there are times where you're going to move away from them after there's going to be little transitions that are comfortable for you to move away, and we'll help you understand when those are. Personal zone. A lot of the sale is going to happen in this personal and social zone, which is going to be 4, 5, 6 feet away. When you're knocking the door, and let's say Trayson is the homeowner, I want to be about here. So this is like 5 to 7 feet away from the house. A lot of times there's steps going down, and I probably want to be at that top step. That's like a comfortable place for me to be if I'm knocking the door right here. If I'm too far away, what is my disadvantage if I'm too far away? They can't hear me, and honestly, I believe it's really easy for someone to tell me no, because I'm already like halfway gone, you know? But the flip side of that, how many people served a mission and like they had those screen doors and you'd like put your leg in the door and pound the door, and then they'd come and you're like right there and you're like, hey, how's it going? And there's 2 of you there. It's like super overwhelming, and there's 2 of you, so it's like even more overwhelming. So we want you to be cognizant of where you start the interaction from. And so that's the most important thing with space zones. Public zone is going to be like speaking at church or in front of an audience, or like me to you guys right now. This is like a public zone, okay? Head movement. Big thing here is just that it shows confidence. Nodding your head affirms that you know what you're talking about. A really good time to nod your head is when you're trying to get a positive response from the customer. So when you're telling them the price, right, that might be a really good time to be like, you tell them the price and you go for a close, which we'll teach you how to do. That'd be a great time to like nod your head and like see if you can get a positive response from them, right? Okay, so that's head nodding. Last thing is mirroring. Who's heard of the term mirroring before? What do you know about mirroring?
Like a conversational context is where you're trying to reflect what the person's saying. Obviously, I mean, if they're,
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it more in the context of like just with friends and having a bad day, you want to explain to them that you understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
So you mirror whatever they're saying.
Sure, yeah. Perfect. So there's a like a verbal component to this, But then there's also the body language component. And this is the body language component of mirroring. One example a lot of times we'll share is an older lady, let's say, comes to the door and she's like hunched over. Like literally sometimes like it can be a great practice for you to like kind of get on their level, right? So like if they're hunched over, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Good. Right? Like that is weird, but why would you not do that? Like it makes her feel comfortable and it's a great practice, right? On the flip side of that, like some macho bodybuilder guy comes out, like I'm gonna try my very hardest to be brave and bold and like, yeah, man, I'm doing great. How are you? You know, not just with my voice again, but with how I am standing and how I'm positioning myself, right? So, and he subconsciously will respect that and love that. Like, again, people love to do business with people that they like and trust and that remind them of themselves. It's like this weird thing, but it definitely works. Any takeaways on this or questions on mirroring itself? Okay, moving on. Metaverbal communication. So biggest thing here is, and there's this common phrase, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And I believe this is extremely true. Like, I've been married now for 8 years. Darren's been married. When you say things the wrong way, you get in trouble with your spouse. And so you got to say it the right way, right? It's all about the tone. So the sentence, I am sorry, right? That is a sentence that can mean a ton of things depending on how you say it, right? You can say it genuinely, you can say it sarcastically, you can say it frustrated, like, you know, two little kids are arguing and the parents are like, say sorry to your sibling, right? And we've all heard the like, I'm sorry. Like, no, say it again. Say it like you mean it, you know? Like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. So we want to get you really good at understanding and hearing yourself on how you're speaking. A lot of times we think that that you will likely have some blind spots and some things that you think that you do that you don't do, or some things that we'll try to change with how you speak, and I think it will help you and bless your life. So that's the first thing metaverbally. I want to give you a couple examples of how we're going to help you with your metaverbal communication over the next with you working with us. So volume, right? Like how loud you're speaking. Some people speak way too loud. Some people are way too quiet. Like they talk like a mouse, like literally. And I've had reps on the doors sometimes where if anything is happening, like someone's mowing their grass like 5 houses down, because this rep talks so quietly, like the customer straight up cannot hear that. So I'm like shadowing this rep and the customer's like, I can't hear what you're saying. And I'm like telling the rep, like, you gotta talk louder. You gotta talk louder. They can't hear you. And so volume matters a lot on both sides, too loud or too quiet. Speed, most of you talk too fast, especially when you get nervous and you get in front of a real person on the doors. Like talking too fast can show that you're not confident and comfortable. And so we're gonna try to slow you down and help you feel really confident and comfortable with the speed that you speak at. Pitch. Who's heard of the missionary voice before? What is the missionary voice? It's like this up pitch thing that we do, right? I'm sorry, I'm gonna like kind of diss on some people, but if you served in like Mexico or one of those countries and then you come back, there's this like up pitch thing that we do. When you're a missionary that goes to Mexico, when they give their farewell speech, it's like, you can hear, they're like singing in their voice, right? And there's some languages that are like that. You don't want to sing, you want to say confident statements. And so we're gonna help you do that with how you speak. Yeah, up pitching is something that we're gonna try to help you avoid. So any thoughts or comments on that from veteran sellers on the pitch?
Yeah, could we get an example of that? Like, what's the difference between up pitch?
Why don't you give us an example? Let's hear it.
I'm just so experienced, I don't do it anymore, but
Yeah.
I think like up pitch it sounds more like a question. So you're like, I can fit you in, I can do this for half the normal price.
Yeah.
Versus like, if I can fit you guys in, I can do this for half the normal price.
Yeah.
So like it's a statement versus a question.
Yeah, one is questioning yourself. And in English, like the listener knows that you're done speaking when you down pitch in English. But when we up pitch, you're asking a question. And that is normal to up pitch when you're asking a question, right? Like, hey, do you want to come eat with us? Or hey, do you want to come out with us? Or whatever. Like there can be an up pitch there. The problem is when you're up pitching and you're not asking questions, right? Silence is actually, believe it or not, an amazing tool with metaverbal communication. When you're closing a sale at the very end, a lot of times you'll be nervous and you'll want to keep talking. And sometimes the best thing you can do for a close is to deliver your close confidently and nod your head and just wait. And just see if they'll give you a yes. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is continue to talk, and not put the ball in their court and say, okay, Bob, like, I'd love to earn your business. I'm going to be here tomorrow. Are you guys going to be here if we were to get this done? And he like looks at his wife. All right, we'll give you a shot, right? But if I didn't close and wait, then that may have not happened. And so that's really important. Last thing is echoing. What is echoing?
Repeating.
Yep.
What is it?
So echoing is going to be like the metaverbal piece to what mirroring was. So again, grandma comes out. She has a super high-pitched voice. I'm going to talk differently to her too. Not only am I going to do that thing where I bend over a little bit, I'm also going to be like, hey, how's it going? Good. Hey, yeah, my name is Parker. Like I am going to help her feel comfortable, right? And the same thing with that macho guy. Like I'm not going to talk to him that way. That would be super weird. And so I'm going to talk to him, like more like he does. You don't have to totally echo it to where you're like copying exactly how they sound, but you just want it to feel more echoey, if that makes sense.
Can I make a
Yes,
comment?
please.
I think also sometimes that does relay to a little bit, well, I guess it might go over this in verbal, but like if they're calling me like man or bro, I might throw that in as well.
Yeah.
Echo that section of it a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I don't know if that falls in verbal or metaverbal, but I totally agree with that. It's up the same vein. It's like if they're kind of more informal, then I might switch to the more informal thing. But the worst thing you could do is if an old guy comes out that's kind of like military vibes and call him bro, right? Like that is how you lose a sale right away, right? I'm calling him sir. I'm looking him in the eyes, like, and there's ladies, trust me, like, dude, there are some powerful women in this world that like you don't call her ma'am. Yeah, don't call her sir. Maybe, I don't know, dude, it's crazy times. I would call her ma'am, like 100%. I've had so many sales where she's like loving that I'm calling her ma'am. You know, I'm like, yes, ma'am. And that plays a huge role in her like respecting you and helping you get the sale, right? Okay, the last piece is verbal. There are some actual words that like we will steer you away from or that will help. And I won't get into a ton of these. I'll share an example or two. Like one would be, if you can keep control, then you should. So like chemical, for example. Chemical, you're selling pest control, we use chemicals 100%. And you never want to lie to someone and tell them we don't use chemicals. But if you get to control the narrative, and as you're talking about the service, like there are words that can be softer than that, right? So you might use product or treatment, the treatment that we use, instead of like, yeah, we're using a bunch of chemicals around your home, right? So like when you get to be in the driver's seat and you get to choose the words, then you want to be selective and intentional about that, okay? That's the only thought there. There's a couple other words that we'll get into, but we don't need to get into that too much tonight. Any questions on that? Okay, objective number 3, the last thing we're going to talk about tonight, but this one's important. I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step sales process for a pest control sale. You guys good with that? Step 1 is called the initial approach. Step 2, and I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into these. There's a slide for all of them. Step 1 is the initial approach. Step 2 is something we call insider response. You're gonna overcome objections in sales. What's an objection?
Have to think about it.
Yeah, but what's the definition of an objection? Like what?
A reason not to buy.
Yeah, it's like a concern or a problem that they have with doing business with you, right? And in sales, objections are very normal, right? We had an objection for that Foot Locker guy, and honestly, in a lot of cases, we ended up buying from that guy, right? That didn't mean that the sale's not going to go down. It just meant that we have a little bit of resistance, or we need to make sure we're cool with him, or sometimes we just want to be able to sell ourselves, and we want to like psychologically feel like, yeah, like I chose these shoes, like he didn't get me to choose these shoes, you know? So objections, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about presenting, which is when you're like telling them about pest control and the need for it and why they should do it versus having their own thing and all that stuff. And the urgency, like let's get this done in the next day or two, and you'll have some kind of hooks that you can use with the customer. And then closing, which I'll talk about in a second as well. All right, this is Kayla Greer. She sold with us for a bunch of years. This is a picture of her doing an initial approach last summer. Kayla's awesome and made a ton of money with us. Initial approach. So this is a couple seconds long. This is like 4 seconds. This is like door comes open. What am I doing? Your very first move is called an initial approach. The initial approach, you're briefly going to explain why you're there and who you are. That's it. And your goal is to generate a little bit of interest, right? People have a knee-jerk reaction to say no, right? They're at their house, they're watching their show, they're eating their meal, they're doing their thing, and you're a stranger, and they're nervous about, you know, answering the door and coming to you. So you have a couple seconds to make some magic happen. And so we are very intentional about these first couple of seconds. First of all, before this, I'm literally like yoga breath, like I've done this for a zillion years, but I still get nervous every door. Like it's just a thing, and that's totally okay. So I take a deep breath. I get my distance right. I'm like 5 to 7 feet away, and I'm not positioned this way. I'm turned to the side just a little bit, and I got my iPad or my clipboard on my hip. Okay. They come to the door. We say an introduction phrase, and then you ask an engaging question. And I'm going to give you like one example of what that could be tonight. So that might be, a lot of times a name is like the most powerful word in language, okay? And if you have a customer that we already service, that is so powerful, and it will freeze someone and it will excite them about continuing to listen to you, okay? So it might be your own name that you say first. We're not opposed to you saying, hey, I'm X person, I'm with this company, but really early on, you're going to say the name drop of a customer that you do very close by. That's your first move, and that's your intro phrase. So it's, hey, how's it going? Good. Hey, I do work for Bob, your neighbor just across the street. That's it. Or, hey, how's it going? Good. Hey, I'm Parker. I work with Pointe. I'm doing some work for Bob just across the street. Okay? That's the intro phrase, and that's it. It's 4 seconds. Or I guess that's probably like 2 seconds. Then the second piece to that is you're going to ask them an engaging question. Okay? Who has been knocked on or stopped in the mall where they just like talk? They just talk your ear off, and like they don't let you like freaking breathe. So our pitch, we want to engage the customer and give them a second to like acknowledge you and the fact that we're talking. So we have a bunch of questions that we'll ask here, but one of them, our go-to is, has anyone been by to let you guys know what's going on? Or, you know, has anyone in the neighborhood told you about what we're doing out here? There's some kind of question to engage the customer. You're kind of hoping that they just say no to that, and that you're just like engaging them. Like there's not a ton of science behind this question. You're just trying to engage the customer. Okay? So that's that. And again, tonight we're not going to get into like me showing it a bunch. I'm just introing these 5 steps, but I want you to see it start to finish so that next time you're like, okay, this is what we're diving into, right? Any questions so far on the initial approach? Okay. So next step is this. You're going to ask, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the pitch. So where did we just leave off? Like, what did the customers just say? They said, no one's been by. So now it's like, this is your time, right? This is your time to give them the reason why you're at their door, okay? And so you're gonna go one of two ways here. A lot of people already have a service. Pest control is very common. So in a lot of markets, probably 70 to 80% of the time, you're gonna ask this question. You're gonna say, I'm coming by just to ask who you guys have set up for the pest control this year. And that's your close. So you're gonna do your intro phrase, hey, I'm doing work with Bob. Has anyone been by to let you know what's going on? No. Cool, yeah, no worries. I'm gonna be doing some pest control work here the next day or two. I'm just curious who you guys have set up for the pest control this year, okay? If you're in a competitive market where most people have a service, that's a really good pitch or an insider response, okay? If you're walking up to the house that looks extremely buggy and they just have like spiders all over their house, and you see ants crawling all over their, walking up to the house, or a wasp nest, like, and I know this sounds crazy, but like when you're wearing our hat and wearing our uniform and you're like in pest control mode, you will notice stuff. Right now you're probably like, I am not a bug person. I do not care about pest control. But you'll notice this stuff. So walking up, if you notice that it looks like they might not have a service, then you're gonna lead with a discount pitch. So you're gonna go, I'm in the area, I'm doing pest control, my trucks are here. If I can fit your home in, I can do it for about half off. So you're gonna do one of those two things. You're gonna ask who they have, or you're gonna lead with the discount, okay? That's going to create some responses, and that's our whole goal, right? We want to almost like a flow chart. We want this to stay really predictable. So I do this, and they can only do so many options. That's my whole goal with our pitch, is I knock their door, I do my thing. If I do my thing right, this can only go one of maybe like 4 or 5 ways, okay? And these are the 4 or 5 ways that it can go. From my pitch, they can ask how much, which we love, right? If they ask how much, like I'm seeing dollar signs, I'm feeling like, dude, I'm gonna sell this person, right? We literally track how many how muches we get in a day, because if you're getting a lot of how muches, then your initial approach is good. It means it's working. You'll get this question, what are you treating for? Like, what are you servicing for, right? Or sometimes they'll be like, do you do the ants? And again, that's a buying sign. You're like, yes, I do the ants. Where they at? Like, it's a good, you're like, dude, I just sold this person already. I haven't even said anything. They have a company, okay? This one's good too, because it means they've already budgeted for pest control. And now you just gotta switch who they have, right? You gotta be you, be likable, and help them understand that you're a better option. They do it themselves, DIY people. You're gonna get really good at helping people like understand that they should have a service instead of doing it themselves. So that's another objection. And there's some other ones as well. So I just wanted to give you a couple, but if you do this right, it's gonna create predictable responses, okay? A lot of times you're gonna get objections. And so there's gonna be a ton of trainings where we'll just dive into these. Like, if they say this, what do I say? If they say this, what do I say? But there's the same process every time. And this will serve you so well, regardless of, like, even if you go do another sales job, like learning these 3 steps and how to overcome objections, it will serve you extremely well the rest of your life. Even sometimes in your marriage, my wife sometimes is like, dude, you're doing the objection cycle with me, Empathy, give some logic, try to change your mind, Okay, so the steps are this. They give an objection, I give empathy. Why is empathy so important? What is empathy? Why is it important in sales?
It makes them feel heard.
Yep, so if empathy's not there, then how does the customer feel? Like what happens?
It makes it feel argumentative.
Yeah, combative, and like you're not in their corner, that you're not listening, you're just kind of like bulldozing them, right? Alan, did you have something?
I was just about to say this.
Same thought, cool. Okay, so first move is empathy. You gotta give empathy. Empathy sounds like this. Yeah, no worries, I totally hear ya. Or totally, you can say totally, you can say no worries, you can say no problem. You can say, one of those phrases is usually what you're going to say, and it's how you say it, right, in a genuine manner. Like, oh yeah, totally, I hear you on that. Something like that can go a long way, right? Sometimes you can put a little bit even more of a statement in it when you know what the objection is. You know, like, oh yeah, I've heard that before, and like I've heard that from other people. I totally hear you on that. Like one example might be this: I have dogs, like, and I might be like, oh yeah, totally, I love dogs. Like, we would never want to hurt dogs. I don't blame you for like worrying about your dog. And then that's my empathy statement, right? Tailored response is the logic. This is a fancy phrase for just logic that can change their mind from a no to a yes. Okay. So, oh, I have dogs. I'm worried about the chemicals. Oh yeah, totally. I hear that. I love dogs. We would never want to hurt your pets. Just so you know, the products that we use they're all very pet safe. And yeah, like we treat in hospitals and vet clinics and places like that. So it's all really safe product that we use. Boom, that's my tailored response. And then a close. So the close is just, the goal is to push the conversation to the next steps. The close might be there. Wherever I'm at in the sale, I'm gonna try to push it to. So if I haven't shown them the price yet there, I might say, I'm like nodding my head and they're like, okay, cool. They might even say like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's great that it's pet safe. Yeah, let me show you the price if that's cool. So the close is like, I'm moving you forward, right? Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, last slide or two. So presenting, so this is Cam last summer. I think he sold this lady. He's out, he's out like, he's kind of got her outside and he's showing her the service on her home, okay? So this is where you're gonna explain the need of the service. Obviously, the need that they have is that they have bugs or that they don't wanna get bugs in the future. We're selling pest control, so you're talking about the need in that they have bugs or they could get them. The value, value is, so like a DIY guy, someone that does it themselves, they see the value in pest control, so they see that they have a need, but they don't see the value in hiring someone like us, right? So they're sold on the need, but they're not sold on the value. And so part of this is you're gonna explain what we do, like why you should hire me instead of doing it yourself with the stuff at the store. And we'll get into that, but you're gonna talk about how often we come and where we treat on the home and you know, all the awesome things that our service does. And then the urgency. So we're gonna talk about this like Black Friday concept, but you know, what's Black Friday? Like why do people go crazy about Black Friday? There's a discount happens once a year. Yeah, limited time. Like how many times a year does Black Friday happen? One time, right? So we want to create that same feeling in our pitch. So it's like, hey, I'm here. I have a couple guys here in the area. I have a couple slots open. I would love to help you. If you'll work with me on the timing, then I'll do this for this discount. Let me show you what that would look like. So you can kind of try to get them to do it the next day or two. Okay. So that's the urgency. And then the ending is the close. So we make this kind of joke, or we have this phrase where like flyer boys or flyer girls don't make a lot of money, right? Like we've all seen kids out on the streets like passing out flyers, or people for their own business like passing out flyers. Those are extremely not effective, right? If you served a mission, dude, I handed out probably like 10,000 pamphlets on my mission, and like, dude, I got no calls back from that. Maybe like some, I don't know, did you get any in Bulgaria?
Not a single one.
No calls back.
No.
So the pamphlets don't work, and so you got to be a closer. And this is like, if you want to be really good in sales, you have to get comfortable with closing sales down. And sometimes, if you're really good at presenting it and stuff, they'll just come out and say, "You sold me. I love it. Let's do this." Right? But sometimes to get some of the higher hanging fruit and the tougher sales, you have to like ask them for their business confidently, right? And that's what closing is. Sometimes though, it's not even at the end of the sale, it's like pushing the sale to the next step. So when you hear closing with us, and when you're working with myself and with your managers, sometimes you'll hear you got to close. And a close might not just be like get the sale, it might mean get them to the next step, right? In that sales process. So I'm working them through those steps, and at each of those, at at the end of those steps, there's going to be kind of some closing to push the conversation forward throughout until the big close, which is like the paperwork close. And that's where you make the money, right? That's where you punch it into the end zone and score a touchdown. So objections are good. I don't want you to feel like scared about objections. When I started this job, I was very concerned about like pushing people, making them feel uncomfortable. You can overcome people's concerns and make it feel extremely human and extremely normal and not awkward, right? Even that example I did for you with the chemical thing, like, I don't know, did you guys feel like that was, if you were the customer in that scenario, would you have felt like that was like combative or argumentative, where I just gave you some empathy, gave you some logic, and then, you know, kind of try to push it forward? That's how it should feel for objections. And so they're good. Don't be afraid of them. You've got to learn how to get good at overcoming them to make a lot of sales and make a lot of money. Okay. So we're going to finish with this. We're done, but I want to watch Austin. This is a real sale. So I'm going to put up a real sale on the screen here, and we're going to watch Austin do this. And so as he's doing this, I want you in your head to think, okay, what step is he at in that sales process? Is he doing his initial approach? Is he doing the whole like discount, or who do you have for pest control? What do they say? Do they give him an objection? And then how does he handle that? Does he get to be able to present, right? I want you to just watch that process. It's like 15 minutes. What time is it right now?
8, no, 9, exactly.
Okay, we can watch like the first couple minutes and just kind of get it going, and then I can pause it and be done. You guys cool with that? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, the most valuable stuff is right at the beginning, like how
Yeah.
to get some.
Yeah, we'll pause it once he's like walking around with them. So, okay, let's do it.
I'm holding the camera on a clipboard, so it's a little. Sorry about the noise. He looks right at the camera right here too. Alexis. What?
You pause it right there. You can hear that. Sorry, I know it's kind of quiet. So he said, what's happened so far?
Introduce yourself, told them what you were doing.
Yep. He said, I'm doing work. Hey, how's it going? Said something early, and then he said, I'm doing work for Nancy and a couple others on the street. Has anyone, and then he asked the question, has anyone been by to let you know what's going on? The guy said no. So like that's basically where we're at. And then now he's started into his like trucks. My trucks are here. I'm doing pest control. And he's either going to ask here, who do you have coming out for the pest control, or he's going to say, if I can fit you in, he's going to go the discount route, or he's going to ask who they have for their pest control. Okay, just pause it. So I'm gonna kind of verbally replay what happens.
Yeah.
It's a little too quiet. So he said, Austin, what did he use for his insider response? Did he ask the pest control question, or did he go for the discount? Yeah, he said, who's coming out this year for your pest control? And then what did he say?
Do it
He
himself.
said, me. He's like, I do it. And then what did Austin say as his empathy statement? So that's an objection. He said, I do it myself, right? That's one of our predictable responses. What did Austin say?
His neighbor across the street was doing the same thing.
Yeah, he actually, first move is he kind of empathy, like made a joke, like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm my wife's bug guy too, or something like that, right? And then he said, as a part of the empathy as well, he said, to Cooper's point, he said, a couple of your neighbors were doing it themselves as well. That's awesome. And then he transitioned into like, okay, now I'm going to do my tailored response and try to change your mind. So he empathized, then he went to the logic statement. With the logic statement, he asked a question or two, but mainly he shared our stuff's a little different. It's odorless, and there's some, he shared a couple pieces about like value, like that ours does, that his doesn't. And then he closed, and the close was actually like a discount close. He was like, yeah, if I could fit you in with a couple of these neighbors while I'm out here, I would actually be willing to do yours for about half off. And the guy said, how much? Okay, so when you close after the objection cycle and you do it right, a lot of times you can create a how much from that, and then boom, you're in the game and you got a buying sign and you're on your way to get a sale. So you're welcome to go. So we have a YouTube channel, and you can go and watch a ton of these, and you can get comfortable with the process, learn the pitch, but our bread and butter again is you working with a manager and kind of getting the pitch down and practicing this stuff. So this stuff excites me. Like, I love to watch a person like open a door and not know who you are from Adam, and then 15 minutes later they're like, you're connected, they know what you're doing, you built trust with them, and they're giving you their credit card. Like, it's amazing. It's such a cool thing, and that's what you're going to learn how to do with us. So anyway, that's that. Any questions from tonight on either parts of those, on kind of any of the objectives that we accomplished tonight?